doing push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
Good afternoon and happy Friday to you here on the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Oakley with you. So happy to spend the next 60 minutes trying to upgrade your day in the world of sports. A big, big sponge outside right now. There is nothing going on tonight. Everything is absolutely whacked right off the schedule for tonight, but shut down for tomorrow, as I understand it. Steve Leslie giving us the heads up on that, so thank you, Stevie. It's always challenging, and again, this is if this is your first kind of taste of getting games canceled this year, you are fortunate. You are so fortunate. But this has been the telltale of this entire season: is battling rain, snow, temperatures, field conditions, things of that nature. And it is just another day in the chapter of cancel everything. And it's rained enough. I got up this morning around 4:30 and I opened up the back door, pulled the screen down, and it was raining already. The creek was rising, as they say. And it has not stopped since. It is not good for tomorrow. So if you had big plans for tomorrow from a standpoint here in Northeast Ohio of getting those in, it sounds like it's going to rain even more. So you're probably going to be toast from that perspective as well. Not that it's a laughing matter, but if you wouldn't laugh, you'd cry at this point. Like, playoffs start next week for softball. What are you going to, like, this could be one of those weird, eerie situations that you don't play for like a week. You play a game, you advance in the tournament, and you don't play again for a week. But what's going to be weirder, weirder, is weirder a word? I guess we'll figure that out. This is going to be probably the biggest year we've ever seen from a standpoint of these teams are going to be eliminated from contention for a state title, and they are going to figure out how to play the rest of their games, because it has been hell on wheels with getting these games in. Some of these teams only have 9 games. 9 games on their ledger. And you're allowed 22 by the state of Ohio. Some of these programs might just call it a day. They might just fold up. We're going to talk about all of this and more. I hate to jump into what we're going to talk about from the weather standpoint before we get into our On This Day in Sports History. So let's go. This is an interesting one to me. So in 1954, English athlete Roger Bannister becomes the first ever to run a sub 4-minute mile, recording a 3:59.4 in Oxford. 3:59.4. I remember, listen, I'm built for comfort, not built for speed. Number one. I'm not the guy that's going to win many marathons or half marathons or any kind of distance over maybe 100 yards. Like 100 yards is my max. In my mind, that's as far as I'm going to go. And because that's how far I need to go, right? If I was going to pick up a fumble at the 1 goal line. I only need to go 100 yards, and then that's it. That's the most you're going to get out of me. Luckily, I was a baseball player, and I went 90 feet at a time. If I had to go circle the bases, it was very rarely going to be an in-the-park home run. Now, I grew up in Palestine. There was no fence, so lucky me. But at the end of the day, anybody that, like, and I think it's been done regularly now, is people run an under 4-minute mile, if I'm not mistaken. I know that's an accomplishment. It's a feat, but there's people that do it regularly. And in 1954, that's an unbelievable accomplishment. But I do not necessarily run for fun. I run for my health, and that is the very base minimum. I know I have to do it from a workout standpoint. I cannot do it. Do you have to, like, I'm asking you, do you like running? Does it get, like, what does it do to you? And for my wife can run for miles and miles and miles, and it calms her. That's how she deals with, compartmentalizes the issues. It's her time. Me, I'm sorry. I'm gonna break down the fourth wall. I like playing video games. My mind can be numb. I don't have to make necessarily decisions. When I run, I'm thinking, oh my God, how much further do I have to go? Where's the finish line? That's how my mind works. It's, how do I get from A to B? Never like, how far can I go today? That has never crossed my mind. Never in a million years has it crossed my mind of how far can I run today? Because that's just not how I process. Not a chance. Nikki C says, I'm built for walking 5-ish miles at a time and whacking a ball around a big field. I can never run that fast. And he's obviously talking about golf because he's an excellent golfer. We take the cart. My cousin, one time, I'll never forget it as long as I live, when I first started learning the game of golf, which I was a late bloomer when it came to golf. Like, I despised it. I was more baseball than golf all the way. Still would probably choose baseball or men's softball over golf. But golf now, I'm getting it. I just need to chill the competitive side. I need to learn how to relax in golf. My cousin asked me if he's like, let's go golfing. All right, I'm in. Let's go. And I hope that this resonates home for a lot of you, because I know a lot of you guys probably have the same thing. So we go golfing. We go to sign up, and we're paying for our 9 because it was late. It was after work. Paying for our 9, and he goes, we're walking. And I said, oh, sorry, cowboy, that wasn't part of the agreement. No, we're walking. We walked 9, and I think why people need to take a cart, unless you got your PGA Tour card, is the pace of the game of golf, if you're walking, is incredibly slow. Now, listen, I stink at golf. Donnie Farron's out there. He's watching. He knows Captain Gator himself. But to me, walking just slows everybody else down behind you. You got to constantly let people go past. If it was speed golf, and I've played speed golf before, I actually enjoyed speed golf more than because you're just trying to get the white ball into the hole as fast as you can. Strokes, whatever, doesn't necessarily matter. But, like, everybody knows that one golfer that's out there takes their time. Like, obscenely takes their time. Never golf with that guy. Never, ever golf with that guy. It was just so bad. Like, lines it up, gets up, and Nick, you've probably had the same issues. Gets up there, backs off, the slightest breeze or the slightest noise. It doesn't, Cat, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Kind of like Rock, it doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter if there's a slight wind gust. You're not going to hit that ball 400. Like, you're not Tiger Woods. You're not Phil Mickelson. That's Tiger Woods. We don't have Phil Mickelson here. Rory McIlroy. I'm just throwing out names of golfers. Today on the show, we're going to talk about electronics and how they have helped and how they are helping spring sports now. We've talked about the AI. We talked about the umpires and things of that nature. Earlier this week, there's a story going around in Southern Ohio about players utilizing Apple Watches like this one, players utilizing walkie-talkies to steal signs, players utilize basically everything that they're doing in the pros, minus the trash cans, is now on the table. In the OHSAA, it seems like, in the NFHS, even more so, which is the, what's the word I'm looking for? They're the overpowering of the OHSAA, like it's the National Federation of High Schools. It's like a part of, like, the OHSAA is our guidelines, but they go by everything that the NFHS has. So if the NFHS has it built into their rule books and their guidelines, it's a moot point. But it seems like, as we've talked about, technology starting to rear its head, and now it's doing it in spring sports. So we're going to talk about that. Catch up on some of these comments real quick. Nick says walking 9 is the most relaxing thing ever. You're nuts, Nick. I love you, but you're crazy. I can name a couple Brian DeChambeau impersonators, but we won't name names. Bryson DeChambeau, not Brian. What am I doing? It looked like Brian, like the way Brian Scott spells his name. So, okay, I'm gonna preface this. I pulled this up. We try to keep up with what's going on around the state, and this is according to Yappy, which is a chat room, like message board kind of thing. So starts out, and this was April 18th, heard a rumor that a conference leading team in Southwest Ohio was caught using electronics / headsets of some sort. Has anybody else heard this? It's all like kind of funneled into walkie-talkies and people using iPads. And it's interesting that this topic is coming up today, because we had some discussions over the past month about teams not necessarily liking other teams using iPads or GoPros, or even YSN being there from shooting from behind, because they feel like their pitchers are getting a raw deal from this. And I'm interested from that standpoint. I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but what I was more surprised at was, with all the technology, even with YSN that is there, why aren't teams utilizing it more? Like, I know that MLB athletes, MLB hitters, pro pitchers are in the dugout and they're looking at their last at bat. They're looking at their last, pitch, how much it's breaking, understanding a little bit more of that side. So they go into their next at bat and they understand sequences. They understand maybe the pitcher is tipping his or her pitches from that. That's why I'm more interested. I could care less about the walkie-talkies, like banging on a drum. Like, okay, that's illegal to do, because they're watching a camera from center, left field, wherever it may be, and they're seeing the signs, and then they're banging on the drum. Curveball, change up. That I could get upset about. Trust me when I say this. That's not happening in high school. The game at the professional level has slowed down significantly. So there's not that much time to transfer a relay, boom to boom to boom, and then accurately understand what pitch is coming. Doesn't happen. Happens in the pros because it takes a minute and a half to throw a pitch. When's the last high school game you were at that an umpire didn't take over and say, hey, let's go. Speed it up. We're not going to be here all night. I'm making $50. That's it. Or whatever it may be. It's one of those scenarios where umpires usually handle that real swiftly and very quickly. I've been an advocate for a long time of technology in sports. I love the huddle cams. I love, that kids can go down and there's huddle actively is pushing schools to use big screen TVs. I know a handful of our teams on YSN do that. There's a big screen on their sideline. They can gather around. Their defensive coach, offensive coach can break down film right there on the fly. That's impressive. But again, starts here, funnels here, and then funnels down. It surprises me that more baseball and softball coaches, programs aren't taking necessarily advantage of the technology that they have. Game Changer is a really good example. A lot of these teams do game. Pardon me. A lot of these teams do Game Changer. A lot of these teams do it just for, okay, we're keeping stats, we're keeping everything that goes with that for recruiting purposes, whatever. But why wouldn't you want to use that as a tool during the game, post game, to increase your chances of victory? In my world, I gotta believe that there would be 2 Game Changers on every single fence in front of YSN. They have the opportunity to do that. And this team can do, watch what they want to watch from the angle that they want to watch it. This team can do the same thing, but they're not feeding the same broadcast or the same live stream. I don't understand why you wouldn't have, like, a school wouldn't go and buy 6 iPads or 3 iPads and have them readily available in the dugout for players. Okay, let's go through that last at bat. Some of them might not care enough to do so, but I would, as a catcher, as someone who had to, people that chart pitches. I think this would be more effective than just looking to a chart and saying, oh, okay, the curveball missed. Well, why did it miss? Was it something I did? Was it an umpire's judgment? Was the catcher too far inside? There's a lot of things that you can do. And with technology, I think that it comes down to being comfortable with it, number one. But in today's day and age, I got to believe that with a YSN or with a Game Changer or with something like that, you should be able to go back in your at bat. And now, granted, keep in mind that we don't always have the best vantage point. As the technology gets better, wink, wink, our vantage points will get better. But I will say this, I would still be going back and looking at the sequence of pitches, looking at the pitcher, understanding, okay, he's throwing a curveball here. I know it. I saw it. How do I see it in the box better? How do I understand it a little better? Technology, people just don't take advantage of it nearly enough. Seth chiming in says, DJ, question for you. Have you ever hit a home run out of the park? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Several times, as a matter of fact. I'm prideful of that because it's one of the things that I actually could do. Now, if you ask me if I've ever slam dunk, nope. And I never will be able to, unless it's a one of those little hoops like my son has. That, I'm the slam-a-jam-a champion. Home runs, yeah. Absolutely. And it's to me one of the best feelings in the world. But I've never been one that hit it and knew it was gone. I hit it and I just run as fast as I can. Because, again, growing up in East Palestine, Seth, maybe you know, maybe you don't, but our field was based in a park, and there was no natural fence. They tried a snow fence at one time. That didn't work out. But there was no natural fence. Your options were A, hit it to left field where there's a hill that rolls up and into a basketball, 2 basketball courts where the ball, if you hit it hard enough, it'll roll up the hill and just keep going and towards Rainbow Dreamland. That was one option. Option 2 was there's a tennis court in center field, left center field to center field, that if you hit over that fence, which was probably, man, I would argue that's probably 430 feet away from home plate, something like that. That's gone. That's considered a home run. And then you move over, there's a little bit of space in right center field. And then in right field, there's a sand volleyball court that lives there. And you could hit it, and that was the shortest porch of all of them. You could hit it over that, through that, whatever, and it'll roll down a hill that was the entrance to the park, or towards the pond at the entrance to the park. Those are your three options. So I knew that when I hit it, or anybody hit it, you just start going. And I've seen some crazy things happen at that park when it comes to home runs, because my friend, one of my good friends, he was 2 years ahead of me, hit an absolute bomb. Like, this thing was probably just landed a week ago. Obviously being facetious. However, he hits it off of the basketball court. So probably hit it about 380, 390. Off of the basketball court, goes towards the playground, which is Rainbow Dreamland. He goes down to first base, trips over first base, fell straight on his face. Now, he was not nimble, and I hope I'm not surprising you. He was one of the bigger boys on our team, and he could absolutely mash. But he did not make it around all the way to home. In fact, he got thrown out at third base. So the left fielder chases the baseball all the way up to Rainbow Dreamland, chucks it to the shortstop who was out there taking the relay. The shortstop throws it to the third baseman, and it wasn't even close. My guy was out by probably 6 feet. Tripped on first base, and like, I don't know if he had a siesta. He took a nap, but he gets back up, starts chugging along, gets second, relay comes in, pew, third base, tagged him, and the kid didn't even slide, didn't even try. He knew he was toast. When in reality, you hit a ball 380, 390 off of concrete into a playground, you should be on the bench by the time that ball comes back in. My guy wasn't. That's how I learned to run the bases. Like, your feet are on fire. I wasn't exposed to a fence, and that's why it was so great, because by the time I get to second base and you see the umpire giving the whirly bird, like, you can finally slow down, and everybody makes fun of you at that point. But you're taught to watch the ball hit the bat. You don't want to watch the ball. You want to focus on getting a first, getting a second, getting a third. And listen, surprise, surprise, your boy wasn't legging out a whole bunch of triples along the way. I had a fair share, but I didn't break any school records in triples. But yeah, out of the park homer, yes. My favorite thing. Worst part about it is you can't feel it come off the bat, typically. You know you got it, but you just don't. It's just one of those things in life. You don't feel it. Goes off and you just go, oh, better run. Because if it drops, or someone is a can of corn and he drops it and I'm standing at first base, I'm in big trouble. I'm running later. And again, I hate running. Full circle. It's a circle. It's a circle. Not the square. It's a circle. So yeah, there's that. But if I was utilizing technology, I probably would have had a few more home runs. I'm gonna argue for that. Nobody can prove me wrong. Because I was flying blind. Like, we were lucky that we had like iPods in 2003. Let alone streaming devices, let alone what Game Changer has. If you have Game Changer, and obviously, we're working together, Game Changer and YSN in some capacity. you need to make sure you're utilizing the full technological benefits of it, because you can go back in and you can retrace your steps, so to speak, during the game. Football's doing it. I think basketball's doing it. I'd have to ask a coach. The majority of schools around here, not really. But at higher levels, bigger schools, they are. And why wouldn't you? Taking advantage of your resources. That's all that is. Now, do I condone stealing signs and things of that nature in baseball and softball? Like, here it is. Change your signs. Change your signs. That's all it is. You don't go in with one set of signs and say, well, if they get these, we're screwed. No, you have signs with a pitcher when there's a runner on second, signs with, whatever. We change signs every inning when I was in school. It's just one of those things. And now there's codes. Now there's all of this. I don't like that for a number of reasons, but I'm one of those guys that's old school. I love when a catcher calls their own game. I love it. Catcher should be in charge. Kids should be in charge. And if he's not good enough to call his own signs, what's he back there for? What's she back there for? Coaches can't see some of the things that go on. They can't see where a batter's lined up necessarily. That's what discussion's for in the dugout. I'm always going to advocate. Now, quarterback's a little bit different, right? When you talk about an offensive coordinator, there's a vantage point that a quarterback can't see that an OC can if they're on the sidelines or if they're up in the booth. Quarterbacks have to make a decision like that. You can go over game plans between innings with a catcher when they're calling up sequencing pitches. I love catchers that call their own game. One of my favorite things in the world. Because it teaches you accountability, it teaches you responsibility, it teaches you leadership. Because guess what? You call for a curveball, that curveball hangs, and it bangs. And you're on the hook for 50% of that. That's why it's a battery. That's why you talk about pitcher and catcher conversations and relationships are so important. So important. And there's a responsibility for a catcher to know the hitters. Okay, I know this guy hasn't, or this girl hasn't got a hit yet today. We've been working them outside. Do we switch over inside? Have they been chasing? Have they been doing anything like that? Technology should help you do that. You can go back, your catcher should always be in the moment. Like you're there for 2 hours for a baseball game, an hour and 20 minutes for a softball game. Your catcher and pitcher should be on the bench next to each other during their half of the inning. So when your team's swinging the bat, the catcher and the pitcher should be discussing the next sequence of pitches, even the coaches. And when you have technology and you can go back and say, hey, look, this is what we fed them last time. They kept fouling it off, but they couldn't put solid contact on it. You should be able to utilize that. Now, I don't want any like buzzers like they had for the Astros or whatever that was. Like that's garbage. There is a rule in the NFHS rule book that any gear, I'm trying to think, I think I had it up here. Apologies if I miss it. Okay, rule 1511 says non-traditional playing equipment must be reviewed by the NFHS Baseball Rules Committee before it's permitted to be used. The OHSA views electronics on players as non-traditional equipment. So take that as it is. Furthermore, I'm not aware of any other state using MFHS rules that views electronics on a player as traditional equipment. Once the NFHS Rules Committee / coaches views them differently, they remain illegal. So what that boils down to is anything that goes on a player can be deemed as non-traditional. So these guys, you're not going to see anybody at a baseball game wearing an Apple Watch. because you're not allowed. Same way that you'll see an umpire come out, can't wear these, right? You can't wear wristbands for whatever reason. I don't know. But I'm really interested from that standpoint. These cameras aren't on the athletes. They're not on the players. And I don't think they're ever going to ban them. But can schools ban them themselves? Like if you have an iPad or you have a GoPro or you have YSN, can a school tell you no, you can't do that on the other side for any reason? I'm interested. I don't know what the answer is. Is it yes? Is it no? Does it go under school policy? Does it go under OHSAA policy, NFHS policy? I don't know. What's the ruling verdict there? And what overrules what in that scenario? So if I'm at my field and you come up and you say, hey, we're gonna put this GoPro here and put it on the fence and shoot it, do I have the ability to tell you no? Whether I'm shooting it or not, or YSN shooting it, or another third party shooting it or not. Do I have the ability? I don't know. I don't know because I think the NFHS, if I'm not mistaken, overrules everything. And if the NFHS doesn't see that as a rules violation, I don't think that OHSAA or that school or organization can tell you that you can't do it because you've invested in that particular device or that particular component of your program for multiple reasons. I don't know how that goes. I don't know what that looks like. All right, let's get to Seth saying, I'm a big fan of hit tracks. Yes. Seeing my son's exit velo is so cool. I'm a hit tracks though. That's a pretty penny. That's one that we wish that we could invest in for parks like Ysn Park, because think about that point of view, knowing exit velo, every pitch, all that stuff. If we can get involved with that, bananas. The more information you can bring to a broadcast, the more valuable you're going to be. Amo in the house says that may be the best YSN merchandise I've seen on my time with this creator. This is OG stuff, Amo. OG. This is straight up Amazon Prime and my wife's cricket machine. This is the bootleg stuff from the early days of YSN. She looked at it today and said, I can't believe that's held up for 5 years. I didn't know if she was talking about the sweatshirt or me at this point. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, still more to talk about. Also, make sure you're getting those votes cast for the big dogs of the Valley. We'll rehash them. Make sure you're voting for them. And, of course, more here on the Ysn Power Hour after this break.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
For a great vehicle and a great experience, come to Boardman Mitsubishi today. As always, our full lineup of Mitsubishi models comes with a standard 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Boardman Mitsubishi, your hometown Mitsubishi dealer since 1999.
Coca's Pizza, always supporting our community and our local athletes. Stop in on game day or score big and have it delivered right to your door. Check out our daily specials at cocaspizza.com. That's Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
At Hubbard Chevrolet, Hubbard can help you get the financing you need regardless of your situation. I'm Tony Page, and I've helped thousands of customers in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania buy a vehicle. Visit HubbardChevy.com to get pre-approved. Remember, folks, Hubbard can help.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
It means the world to me to know that what we're doing is impacting people. And whether it's simply, I got to watch my son or daughter when I was out of town, or we just love watching YSN. We love what you do for our son or daughter. So whenever someone says thank you or someone is appreciative of what we're doing, it tells me everyone at YSN is doing what we initially set out to do, which is shine a light on these athletes and help them kind of promote themselves. My name is Anthony Hartwig, and my sports network is your sports network.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Anthony Hartwig. We hope that your sports network is your sports network. So in case you're just joining us, everything canceled for tonight on the network. There are no games remaining. Everybody is washed out. Another tough night. But given the light of everything that has happened in the last week or so, not the end of the world. Go out and enjoy each other, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy a nice local restaurant, maybe. Those will probably be packed, given that this weekend is a special holiday that I'm sure you know about. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, and again, I want you to tell me why this is, because this is one that has absolutely got me puzzled up and down. The media, specifically in Ohio, and I'll include ours as well, they are all about football. Like, football is the king, and there is a 6 feet of dirt, and then the rest of the sports. And I could not disagree more. And it doesn't say, and it doesn't, I don't want people that think that football is king to sit there and get mad at me or get frustrated because I'm taking anything away from it. Listen, I like football as much as the next person. Love it. One of the most perfect games on this earth. Explain to me why we need to talk about football 4 seasons out of the year. We don't do that about anything else, specifically in high school. I get it that it's a hotbed, and I get it that, okay, there's more kids that play football than play this than. I will tell you once again, statistics prove that the other sports still give out more scholarships, or there are more, let me rephrase that. There are more scholarship athletes or athletes that play at the next level in the other sports than in football. And people are going to sit there and go, well, that's because you're going to combine all the other sports. So why don't we talk about those sports on an equal playing field as we do the pigskin and the gridiron? I'm so confused about this. I mean, people are talking about schedules already for high school football. And with all due respect, get in line. We're talking about baseball. We're talking about softball. We're talking about track and field. We're talking about tennis. We're talking about golf. We're talking about all these sports that still have not closed up shop, and people are pushing that to the side and saying, hey, you ain't talking about football. You ain't talking about sports. That's not the case. Not the case in the least. And it doesn't make me mad. It just frustrates me. Makes me crazy. Favorite baseball field you've played on? I mean, I'm biased. I played in an all-star game at then Jacobs Field, now Progressive Field. I've also played at PNC Park. Those were great moments. Robbie, but at the end of the day, people are gonna call me a homer for this one. Bobsine Park has a special place in my heart. Bobsine Park is where I saw so many talented baseball players walk through that gate, and there's something magical. There's something special still to this day, and I will tell anybody that wants to hear it. When you walk through that gate at Bobsine Park, it's, you made it. Unlike any other time in my life, when I walked through the gates at Bobsine Park, still to this day, different lens, but I walked through and wow, I worked really hard to get here. It was the same thing that I thought the first time I walked through those fences. I played for a team in the summer called Altel, and I remember the caliber of baseball that was being played at that time, and being on one of those rosters, how much it meant to me, how much it meant to my community, how much it meant to my family, for the work that those kids put in. Bobsine Park will always be special. And one of the things that I'm so excited for, I couldn't get him today. We're going to have Steve Leslie on the show, and there's going to be upgrades this fall at Bobsine Park to once again make it the most coveted place to play a baseball game in Northeast Ohio. And I cannot wait for that. But yes, to answer your question, probably a little bit off kilter. I played at the Prague. I played at PNC. Those were great. Those were fun. Those were exciting. But my favorite place in the world has always been Bobsine Park. Just feels like home. The other sports are quickly gaining ground on football. Regular season softball on ESPN in primetime tells you that. I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree. And here's another add-on to that is, again, as technology continues to roll along and it's more readily available for ESPN and high schools and colleges and the YSNs of the world, you're going to see continued coverage, more coverage. And that's what's interesting to me. Look what Zoom did during COVID, and take that and roll it into high school sports. And not just Zoom, just that business model, and roll it into high school sports. We do a lot of great things here at YSN. There's no doubt about it. But I think the thing that we do better than anybody else and anybody that will ever walk through is our interviews and highlighting these kids, these coaches, these programs. That's the difference. Anybody can go stream a game. Anybody can go live stream a sport. But it's the announcers, it's the follow-up, it's the human element of what we do and who we are that separates us from the crowd. And when you look at all of this, when you look at football, to me, football, because most, like, you go to a baseball game or a softball game, these parents are on the fence, like on the fence. They've got a great view of their son, their daughter, the player that they love, the coach that they love, whatever. You're not allowed on the sideline, obviously. Then you're not allowed on the track. Then you're not even allowed on like the walkway leading up. And then some people might stand on the fence during a game, but most people are in the stands, which is what, 150, 200 feet away from the actual game. Football to me is interesting in the part that it is the most popular sport, but it's the sport that we're furthest away from physically, but it's closest to our heart. I don't know why that is. I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe that's the mystique. Maybe it's the intrigue of football. Maybe it's just the sport itself. Maybe there's the numbers, the sheer numbers of people that played football. That could be it. But I know that from our standpoint, it's really interesting because the most rabid of fans aren't necessarily in football. Now, don't get me wrong. Football coaches, football programs, players, parents will fight and will push the agenda during the season. But I will say from this standpoint, the most rabid of fans, you're looking at baseball and softball. I don't know why that is. I don't know why it is, but I love it. I think because you put an incredible amount of money into that sport. Travel ball, summer league, all that. Like, you can play baseball and softball 6 months out of the year. You can play it 12 months, really. Not here. But you can play it 6 months out of the year in Northeast Ohio. It's just facts. Football, you can't. You can train for it, but you can't play it. Basketball, basketball you can too. With AAU. Volleyball you can. Football is the only sport that we cannot play 6 months out of the year, yet it continues to get the lion's share of the coverage from a media standpoint. It always intrigues me. Always intrigues me. Why is it? I can't figure it out. Maybe it's because I'm dumb. Maybe it's because I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not fully invested in everything football. Football brings in the most money from sports. That's a no-brainer. I get that. But in the current climate that we're in now, other sports should be held on as just as important. Just as important. In the world of open enrollment, in the world of business, the transfer portal at the college level, every sport should be, I don't want to say equal, because there's a lot of people that are going to say, well, wait a minute, if everything's equal, I get you. The other sports should have at least a fair shot at the same coverage. And I'm not saying that we're better than anybody at bringing that coverage to the masses. But I will say this. You won't hear us talking about schedules of high school football or any football from that standpoint, and even any other sports outside of prior to their season. Like, right before their season begins. It's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the programs. Not fair to the school. Not fair all the way down. It's not fair. It's filler. It's filler. I'm as big a NFL fan as there is in the world. Love it. Love it. Football season, the NFL draft. If you are a psycho that is excited about the schedule release on the 12th, like, get a hobby. Learn to crochet. Do something. Invest that, like, and I'm not here to tell you what to do, but like, what? What? That's insanity. That's insanity. There's so much other great things to invest in from that standpoint. Your time. Football should not get coverage 12 months of the year. It shouldn't. We should not be hanging on the every word of in the month of April. What does football matter? The same thing about high school baseball in the month of November. Doesn't matter. In every other sport. We shouldn't be talking volleyball on the mass media unless it is slow. Like, slow. And that's with every other sport as well. Shouldn't be talking about those sports in the off season unless it is absolutely, there is nothing to talk about. The slow news day, as they say. Shouldn't happen. And I mean that for every other sport. But I just think football, more than any sport, is showcased full circle calendar year. And it's just like, wow. I'm very interested. Very interested. Catch up on the comments. Got some good ones. Anna Marie Baroth says, I remember Joe was just in elementary school and we passed Scene Park, and I said to him, maybe he would have a chance someday to play ball there. So thankful he has had all the great memories there. Whew. I cannot believe in 5 days or whatever it is, 7, 8 days or whatever it is, that Joe is graduating. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. YSN. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you. Siggy says, baseball and softball are passion-driven, why most of us love them. It's kind of like, it makes me feel like it's like professional wrestling. You know what I mean? Like kind of like niche-y. But I'm going to say this, and we'll get to Mark here real quick too. Speaking of unbelievable baseball parents, on Friday night, every high school football game score is reported or the news outlet has an extended coverage period. Watch the news during baseball season. You may get 3 scores. Max. Shaking my head. That's kind of where I'm at. And I said it the other day. The reason why Ysn was built was because, man, I'm a baseball guy through and through. Spring coverage stinks. So we built this. And now here we are. We weren't built for football. Like, I love football. I love broadcasting football. I'm engaged. If you're not completely exhausted by Christmas of high school football, come on down. Come on down. Or join a coaching staff. Because 90% of those guys are ready for it to be done. At that point, they need a day off. They need a refresher. They need a breath. They forget what their family looks like at that point. It's all very interesting to me. Very, very interesting to me from that standpoint. I wish, and listen, if we were able to do it and cover 24/7, 365, every sport, I'm not sure that we'd still do it. Because I think each sport is set as a stage. Boys and girls independently of each other, and seasons independently of each other. That's why multi-sport athletes will always have a special place in my heart. Because they have to refocus themselves. Like, you might specialize in a sport. So let's say you specialize in football, but you're on the basketball and the track team. You have to mentally prepare yourself differently. And we've talked about this in football season than you do in basketball and in track and field. It's a different grind. And it should be that way for fans as well. Give yourself a mental break from one sport. I love that people are passionate about football here in this area. And this is just me speaking. I could care less what a schedule looks like until July 15th. Could care less. You know the majority of the teams they're playing because they're in a conference. Now you just scramble it around and here they go. And you get 2 or 3 of those teams that you insert as non-conference opponents. There's your schedule. Now, the part that does interest me is as Siggy says, announcers have to prepare differently to sport to sport. And that's something he's learning that he didn't understand, and most don't understand. You have to be incredibly prepared for a football game. Incredibly prepared. Talk to Richie. Talk to some of these guys that spend hours, days. Talk to Steve Leslie, Bob Hannon, those guys, how much they prepare. But on the high school level, it's a little bit different. We don't get game notes from high schools, typically. We have to do our own meal prep, if you will. If we're going to eat, we got to be able to make sure we can do it ourselves. Now, lucky for me, I've become more of an ad-libber than a preparation guy. That's where it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. You better be able to do one or the other. Richie is a prep guy. Steve is a prep guy. Anthony Romo, huge prep guy. They have the luxury to be able to put the time in. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. 90% of the time, I look at our scheduler, which is Quinn Pushkar, our assistant general manager, and I say, where am I going this week? And he tells me. And it's usually wherever we need somebody to go. And it's a different preparation than if he comes to me today and says, hey, we got one game. I need you to go here. I'm out the door. Don't even have a roster. We'll figure it out when we get there. We don't know what time the game starts. Sometimes the game starts 10 minutes before. Sometimes the game starts 10 minutes after it's regularly scheduled to start. Announcers have to prepare differently from sport to sport, and I think fans should as well. If you're expecting to get the adrenaline rush out of football that you do out of baseball, it's like I tell our announcers all the time. Baseball is this. It's a wave. Football is you can ping, right? You can ping all over the board at any given time because the defense can score too. In baseball, it can't happen. So you know that you're riding a wave. And there are lulls between every single pitch. If a team's running high-tempo offense, there's no lulls. Which is why football is more exciting on a broadcast than necessarily baseball. But a baseball game, you kind of have to be able to do what we're doing, and that's talk to yourself and make sense. Now, I don't always do that. And I never said I would. But Siggy is absolutely right. Announcers have to prepare differently from sport to sport, as do fans, as should coaches, as should players, as should parents. Shouldn't just be about one sport all the time. Even if your kid specializes in it, shouldn't just be about one sport. Give the other sports their due. Give the other kids their due. It's time for everybody's favorite 2 minutes a day. It is the Joe Dickey Electric. What's your spark? Here we go. The Joe Dickey Electric, What's Your Spark, presented by our friends over in North Lima with their campus in North Lima and on the web at DickeyElectric.com. Thanks again to Eric Carlson and the entire team over at Joe Dickey Electric for all they do to support YSN. Cannot thank them enough. I'd be remiss if this wasn't a spark about Mother's Day. 3 very special mothers in my life. First and foremost, mine. My mom, who put me on God's incredible earth 37 plus years ago. Cannot thank you enough for the support. You deserve the world for having to deal with me growing up. You deserve the world now for having to deal with me as an adult. We love you and we miss you. She's now in Florida, so it's not as easy as going over half a mile away. So this is like her, I want to say 4th year in Florida. So I hope you have a happy Mother's Day. Know that we love you and enjoy it. Enjoy this. Hopefully you get some sunshine. It's a sunshine state. It's an easy sell. Second one is going to be my mother-in-law, Patty, who has been such a huge inspiration in not only my life, but what you've done and created with Sarah has been phenomenal. The best friend I will ever have, and could not ask for any more. You have been a phenomenal role model to my wife as what she should be doing as a young lady. So thank you. We love you. We adore you. Thank you for everything you do for us. Thank you for everything you will continue to do. And again, we love you more than you'll ever know. And I know you're a very humble young lady. So again, thank you. And truly, truly thank you. And then that leads me to the third and final mother in my life, my beautiful wife, who is the rock that keeps our family grounded at all times, no matter what we're going through, constantly just adjusts. And nobody, with all due respect to everybody out there that's a mother or wants to be a mother or has dreams of being in motherhood, I got the best one. My wife is the best mom there is out there by far. The way she handles herself, the way she carries herself with grace and elegance, and just I could not imagine that she'd ever be better than anything she was as a wife. But man, am I so glad that I was wrong and she is just as good and even so better as a mother. To all the mothers out there, whether you have kids, you want kids, or you're looking forward to having kids, happy Mother's Day. You are always the rock that keeps us all together. And no matter what your significant other says or your kids say, yes, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a great weekend. We'll catch you up on Monday right here on the Ysn Power Hour. Everybody, we'll see you 3 to 4 right here on the network. Peace. Ysn thanks you